boxing tonight. The IBF Intercontinental title on the line at super featherweight here.
And a clubbing right hand there from Judson. A very strong walk forward fighter.
Peter Judson, the champion of this Intercontinental belt in the gold trunks, the blue of the Welshman Barry Jones. Judson won this title against another Welshman in Dean Phillips. And it was a terrific contest. Phillips was extremely talented, landed any number of blows and really went for it, and then just ran out of gas. He just kind of punched himself out, and he just could not move Judson, who sucked it all up, poker-faced, and went on to score the most important win of his career.
Judson keeping his hands up nice and tight there, but every now and again a nice little fast punch landing from Barry Jones. He's curiously just shaking his left leg a little. I'm not sure if he's got a little bit of cramp in there.
Fast hands from Jones, who did some good things in the amateur ranks, as did his brother. Boxing runs in the family. Barry's been fighting since he was 10 years old. This is the tactics that Jones needs to use. Judson taking a lot of them on the gloves, to be fair to him, but not all of them.
No, there was one good right through, got through. He threw a lot of punches there, Jones, but there was one decent right hand slipped in.
Some Welsh fans have travelled up here to Sheffield to support Jones. It's a very pleasant man. There he is again with that little idiosyncratic gesture that Glenn was mentioning. I don't know something whether I've not noticed him do that before, but has he got a problem with that left leg? He keeps kicking it out.
Already this looks like it's going to be a hard fight for Jones. This relentless pressure from Judson.
He's walking forward a lot, but for my money in this round, maybe Jones has landed more punches.
There's a better quality of punch from Jones, but it's how many are actually getting through. He's catching a good deal, Judson.
High held guard. And even the ones that do get through are unlikely to trouble him. By his own admission, Jones is not a heavy hitter, not by any stretch of the imagination. And Judson has got one of the best chins, really, at any weight you'll find. Welcome back to the sporting city of Sheffield.
We'll see if there's any more of the little idiosyncrasy with that left leg of Barry Jones. He seems to be having some problem. Again, he's shaking it. I'm not sure what's wrong there. He's suffering from cramp, but he's doing that several times with the left leg.
Hasn't affected his boxing so far, and there it is again. He needs to be plenty mobile enough to affect the tactics and strategy which would see him to victory. He has to stay elusive. He has to keep away from Judson. Now, John Coyle, the referee, just watch the use of those high elbows, he says to Judson. He's had some good wins, Jones. He beat Justin Murphy. Victory over Neil Swain as well, when Swain was a flyweight. Beaten Kelton McKenzie. Mike Devane, you held the British featherweight title for a while. So he has done things in the pro ranks without really uprooting at many trees.
Yes, I think his boxing ability is without question. You know, he's young and he's got very good ability, beating names like that. But he's going to have to work very, very hard tonight, moving up in weight against a very strong super featherweight.
Spoke to him a week or two back in Cardiff about this fight. and he knew exactly what he would have to do, and he's trained for exactly those tactics. Of course, talking about it's one thing, doing it up there is another.
And Judson in this round just concentrating more on the body of Jones, just trying to bring the hands down and maybe sap the strength a little bit with long right hands to the body. But Jones is boxing well in the round, keeping good movement and just trying to counter well and come out with these they're not hard shots, but they're good little combos.
It's exactly the chemistry we expected between the two styles, and it may make for a fascinating 12 rounds here. Judson is not a heavy puncher himself, despite the fact that he stopped Dean Phillips. He's only had 3 knockout wins in 35 fights. But he is strong and relentless, as you're seeing. Judson in yellow, remember.
Jones coming off the ropes quite good there with a nice little left hook.
A lot of these punches, the majority of them from Jones, has to be said, hitting the arms and gloves of Judson.
For me in this round, Jones has just managed to keep the bouncing going and just landed with more punches.
And the previous 3 have been pretty hard to score. I don't think there've been too much in any of those previous 3 rounds. And it could be that the judges from London, Milan and the USA may not have agreed. The blue trunks of Barry Jones, the challenger. The gold of Peter Judson from Keighley in Yorkshire. Judson just getting a little bit closer. Now then, we've done a bit of research in the corner between the rounds, and apparently the shaking of the leg that Barry Jones is doing is just a little habit of his. It's not an injury. That's good news, because you wouldn't want him really in a fight that could be as good as this to have anything that might handicap him.
Yes, there did seem to be something of a problem there because he was doing it so much. Some nice combinations coming in from Jones. A lot of them, of these punches are landing on the gloves, but he's getting through with quite a few.
But he's making no kind of dent at all in Judson. He will just keep on walking forward. He'd walk through a brick wall. He's the kind of fighter, really, that if you told him he was going in with a Roberto Duran or Sugar Ray Leonard, he'd probably just shrug his shoulders and say, yeah, okay.
Yeah, he loves the game. He's a real great character. But he's very, very tough.
Really is a hard man, and Billy Graham, his trainer at the Phoenix camp, says that if ever a man was born to be a boxer, it's this fellow. Judson himself has to prove that the win over Phillips was just not a freak, and that he can carry on as a championship level fighter and start to make some serious money. Good left hand that time on the counter from Jones, but he's finding it hard to find gaps in his defense. 1 or 2 getting through there.
Yes, that was a good combination from Jones there. Every now and again he can just switch the angles well and just land when Judson's hands are down.
Good right hand. Judson does get through that time. Seemed to lose his balance for a moment there as well, Jones. Heads coming dangerously close together there. John Coyle won't stand for too much more of that sort of thing. Now later on tonight, Ryan Rhodes, very busy boy, topping the bill again, the 20-year-old who's starting to make some waves now, getting that Lonsdale belt in a record 90 days, the British light middleweight champion. Tonight fighting for the IBF Intercontinental belt against Lyndon Scarlett, who is a big underdog, but is a very brave and ferocious little character who will try his heart out. But Rhodes certainly being groomed for stardom. If he loses, his British title will be declared vacant as well. That's a bit on the line for him.
Seconds out.
That comes up later. Live in the ring at the moment, the IBF Intercontinental Championship at the 9 stone 4 pounds division, super featherweight, being disputed here by champion Peter Judson in gold, the blue of Barry Jones, the 22-year-old Welshman.
And Jones is showing good skills on the back foot. He's having to work very, very hard, but he's finding the little gaps in Judson's defense, and he's getting through with some nice counters.
Gets through there with the left jab, Jones. So far, Jones's plans working pretty well for him. Sharp, fast punching, getting in, then getting away again. And starting to just land with a bit more frequency. There's that little gesture again, the kicking out of the left leg.
But I'm sure Jones's camp are very aware of how tough Judson is, and that they probably have to do this the long way and have trained accordingly and worked long and hard on this boxing technique.
Certainly, I know down in Wales, all the family will be in front of a television rooting for Barry Jones. One of his biggest fans is his grandfather, who often watches him at work in the gym. And a family friend, 8-year-old Andrew's always around as well.
He's just slipping into a bit of a rhythm, Jones, just throwing nice punches, keeping nice and busy.
But Judson still looks immensely strong and full of self-belief.
This is how he fights. He's very tough. He's willing to give away a couple of rounds. He's going to keep working hard all the time.
Barry Jones just has to keep him away. And will it start to tell the longer it goes, being in action against this big, strong super featherweight when you've been used to operating in the 9 stone division?
And what's it going to do to him mentally when you have an opponent like Judson who's just going to keep coming and keep coming, and you're never going to really put a dent on him? But so far, he's boxing well, Barry Jones. He's got to keep his concentration and his work rate up.
There must be times in there where Jones feels as if he's using a pea shooter to try to make holes in a rock face.